So actually, I'm happy that you made it, because for me, I had to have this conversation because it's a good conversation for us to have to close the year. Right, how are you doing? I hope that all is well with you. Thank you for making time. Thank you for always choosing Rwanda Television. I know that you are enjoying your festive break for those who have taken it. For some of us, we're here, and of course we're happy to actually make it better in terms of your viewing experience. This is the summit. We are live and we are now in session, and I want to say thank you for making time. As always, my name is Eugene Anangwe. I want to take you to our magical screen, of course, where we also make sure that the program is very interactive. And the interaction here is actually aimed at making sure that this is not just our show, in terms of those of us here in these four walls, but also your show from wherever you're watching us tonight. Of course, we're talking about a very interesting conversation. We are building up these conversations ahead of the 2024 elections. But of course, also a conversation that we must continue having, whether with the election or no election. And that's the question of democracy and the conversations around democracy, our way. Which way is our way? And I want to understand from you, from every part you're watching us tonight, what does democracy mean for you? What makes a country considered a democratic country? And those are the key things that we want to be looking at tonight on the program. We want to hear your views, that those who actually say democracy XYZ is not a good one, or there's no democracy in a certain country XYZ. And I want to understand from you, what do they hold on to? Has the democracy in the conventional way we know it, has it failed? Is it time to actually forge a new direction in terms of democracy? And of course, we'll also be looking at the pros and cons of what we call concessional democracy, and of course the aspect of winner takes all. Let's talk about all these things. And this is why we are saying that our X platform is right here, and you can be able to be part of the program. All you need to do is just add the hashtag the summit RW, and we'll be able to trail and track all your tweets or your X's and be able to read them right here. I have a good friend of ours, a friend of the program, is called Dr. Riarasa Joseph. He actually mentioned it's about time Africans come together to discuss the true meaning of democracy. What's the point of democracy if a country is riddled with corruption and inefficiency? Let's have a honest conversation about it. Daktari, we heard you, and of course we are here tonight. I have Andrew Mutu on X platform. He says this is going to be a good one. Thank you very much. Of course, we promise to make it interesting and, of course, worthwhile for you to watch. So just talk to us. Let us know what your thoughts are. We are live across all digital platforms, including our YouTube channel. And, of course, I'll be coming right here to read your comments on the program. I was seated with amazing people. Let me go back and sit with them and also introduce them to you who probably seeing them for the very first time or hearing from them for the first time. I doubt there's anybody like that. I'm right here with none other than Ambassador Fatuma Dangiza. She's a member of parliament at the East Africa Legislative Assembly. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you, Anangwe.
It's been a long time coming.
It's a long time, and I'm excited to be part of your show towards the end of the year.
Yes. Earlier on, we were saying you like watching from outside.
Yes.
But not from inside.
Now I'm on the show. I like listening to others.
Yes.
But it's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for making time. None other than Ambassador Fatuma Dangiza is here with us. Also with us in the program is none other than Gatete Ruhumuriza Nyiringabo, attorney, researcher, writer. What else?
Obviously, Anangwe's guest. Frequent Anangwe guest.
Anangwe guest. Thank you. I'm still researching on how someone becomes the first one to be invited and the last one to come.
You see, the first will be the last. It's the Bible that says it. It's not me.
Thank you for making time. Yes. We are also hoping to have none other than Senator Samson Cherengei to join us from Nairobi, Kenya. He is a senator of Nandi County in the country of Kenya. Also, we are hoping that we'll be able to have Jokate Mwegelo, who's actually the Secretary General of the CCM Women's Wing. She actually told me just a while ago they're actually within some primaries or some election, and of course she's been up and about, and she's hoping that she'll be able to make it on the program. When they join us, we'll be able to welcome them with warm hands right here on the and Gatete. First of all, I want to start with you, Ambassador. Every time you hear people talk about democracy, Rwanda, just like some other countries, has often gotten points where people point a finger in terms of criticism. that country is not democratic. Just the other day, we also had a politician in neighboring Kenya mentioning how the country is not democratic, comparing Rwanda and their country. I want to understand, first of all, how that makes you feel. First of all, as a Rwandan, especially understanding the democratic space that we have in the country. How does that make you feel, first of all?
Of course, as a Rwandan, it can be frustrating because as a country, we know that we made strides in democracy. We are a country that is unique. We are a country that prides unity and diversity. And of course, whatever we do is based on our context as a nation. We are not competing with anyone. We just came up with the model of a democracy that works for Rwanda, that is built in the context of a post-genocide situation, where we had divisive politics based on colonialism and also post-independence leaders who divided the nation and promoted the hate ideology that led to genocide against Tutsi in 1994. And therefore, for us, based on the lessons learned in our past, we sat as Rwandese. In fact, it took us almost 2 years. There were what was called the Urugwiro discussions that was led by the president of Rwanda by that time from 1998 to 1999. 2 years discussing about the Rwanda that we want in the post-genocide era, the type of governance that we want, the type of constitution that works for us, the type of justice that we want, the type of economic model that we want. And it is on that basis that we agreed to come up with a constitution based on the will of the people, on the wishes of the people. And from 2002, 2003, our people from different levels of the society, starting from the grassroots, ordinary people, were consulted on the type of constitution we wanted. And that's why in 2003, when you look at our constitution, it was driven by the aspiration of Rwandans. And this is clearly articulated. When you look at Article 9 of our constitution, the fundamental principles include power sharing. But when you go in Article 4 of that, Section 4 of that constitution, it's clearly talking about building a state based on rule of law. So here it is not the president of Rwanda who makes laws on the street or says the road should be there. No. There is a system that has been built. We have we also have plural democratic system. That is all embedded in our constitution. The principle of power sharing. And that really explains why we've opted for consensual democracy, where we share power, where even the minority, in terms of getting the views, have a space. That's why we have what we call the Political Parties Forum, which is a consultative forum, where even those parties that never got 5% in parliament have a space,
a stake in that.
A stake in national governance. So really, we think our democracy is working. When you look at all the economic indicators, including even the life expectancy. Today we are close to 70 and that has a link with the governance model that we've undertaken. But we are reconciled as a nation. And therefore for us, democracy shouldn't be detached from other parameters. It has to go with national unity, cohesion of our society. It has to go with the economic and social empowerment of our people. And so far it works with us. We are not competing with anyone, and I think it's high time as neighbors, especially Africans, that we respect each other. Because at the end of the day, we are brothers and sisters. In East Africa, we say one people, one destiny. Thank you.
I like that. And I think it's important that we had that detailed, lengthy explanation from that sense in terms of the background, the history of even where we are and how the country is in terms of its democracy that it has chosen, the Rwandan style of democracy. Gatete, I want to also ask you the same question. I mean, you've been passionate, especially even involved even with parts of the processes, even from a legal perspective. How does it make you feel? Is this something you say, we are used to this, we are not doing our things for people to praise us anyway?
But actually, it's necessary to listen to others as well. It's very necessary. We are students. The problem is when people think, because democracy is a process. It's not a destination. 1990, after the fall of the Berlin Wall, there was a person called Francis Fukuyama who wrote a book, and he called it The End of History. End of the Last Man. He said capitalism has won, liberal democracy has won, nothing else, thinking is futile, everybody should abide by this, we know best, everyone should do this. Having lived in Rwanda, I have grown up in Kigali. The democracy process in Rwanda, the post-genocide process, I was here, I'm a witness to it. And I can see that Rwandans are changing. Rwandans change. They are dynamic. And perhaps the Urugwiro talks, what they discussed only 2-3 years after the genocide, perhaps there will come a time where we say the society has changed, has evolved, and this model is not the right model anymore. And even in that process, the process itself has been growing. So have we gotten it right? It's a daily struggle. We adjust, we adapt, we evolve, we change. And when people tell us this is wrong, we listen. But it depends on how you do it. Because some comments are gratuitous. We know best. You must be like us. You must implement our model. You are backwards. We know. Elders sat in Urugwiro for 2 years, like my elder sister here is talking, saying, and decided that this is what Rwandans, we should. Who are you to tell them that you know nothing, we know better for you? It's disrespect, it's dismissive. But it doesn't mean we don't listen, because we're still learning. We're even learning our own ways. We improve, we adjust, and we listen. But if it comes from a place of arrogance, if it's dismissive, and also if we think there is value, not every, we listen, but we don't listen to every person. You have to have competence to give us advice. But counsel only comes from a person you trust, or from a person, every counsel, even in human beings. By the way, people actually should choose their own lawyer, should choose their own psychologist, should choose their own doctor, should choose their own leader.
That's the way Rwanda is choosing also who to listen to.
So you can't just improvise yourself, and because you also have, it's only in law they call it local standing. You have to have standing. We have to trust you to give us advice. But if you have a history that is dodgy, we won't listen to you. And so on and so forth. But we do listen. Foreign criticism, for me, it's been useful, actually.
I want us to pick that approach and then try to look at this conversation also this way. Ambassador Fatuma, I want to ask you also, picking from what Gatete says, we listen. It's a learning process. It's a journey. It's not a destination or an end in terms of democracy in that particular case. Do you read it, or do you see it also in that sense? At what point does the line get drawn, where you're now saying, look, this is what works for us? And why I ask this, I want to broaden the conversation also to a Pan-African or to an African situation. When you talk about democracy, the conventional way we've known it, that it's people going to election, whoever they voted, that is actually majority wins, the minority, nothing. And if that is not the case, then you are not democratic in that case. Talk to us a bit about that growth process. To what point do we now say, we don't want to listen to what you're saying. I think we know what we're doing and it's best and it fits us and it suits us.
I think that, as Gatete said, democracy is a process, and we are all learning. I like the popular Greek's definition. It is simple but it carries a lot of weight.
Yeah.
The democracy comes from two words, demos, these are the people, and then kratos, this is the power. So it is the power of the people. It is the people who want to be governed. It is the people who choose their leaders. It is the people who determine how they should be led. And for me, I think the moment you have a government or leaders that have been elected by their people, of course, depending on the context, because there are some who will say we shall be going for elections after 4 years, others will say 7 years. Yeah. And of course, there are some guiding principles. You have a constitution. As long as there is legitimacy in terms of leadership, it's not leaders who just impose on the people. Yeah. And then, of course, it's not just to be voted in power. You need to have a social contract with your people. You have to go to the people normally, whether it's a member of parliament, a president, a mayor, or any other people competing for position of power. You have to tell people what you are going to deliver. Yeah. Democracy is not an end in itself. Yeah. So, and again, it's not one size fits all. Yeah. I just take it like a cloth. Yeah. You are putting on a suit, I'm putting on a dress. I don't have to put on. Yes, we all have to wear. Yeah. But I can't imagine now if I decide to put on that coat how I look like. Yeah. Yeah. Or if I decide to put on a miniskirt. Yeah. Yeah. It will be good some, but for me I'll feel uncomfortable. Yeah. But I think the common denominator is that we all need this cloth which is called democracy. Yeah. And there are certain universal principles to democracy. For example, rule of law. If you don't have rule of law in any given country, there will be anarchy. And I think this one, everyone believes in that. Issues like participation. We want our people to participate. And participation is, again, when you talk about people, you have to go into details. Who are these people? Yeah. That's why, for example, women here should have a stake, youth. Even in the leadership, the constitution is clear. You need to talk about inclusive governance that leaves no one behind. Yeah. You have to talk about accountability. Because if you are a leader and you cannot be questioned why you didn't deliver on that road, you didn't deliver on microfinance that you promised people, you promised to build schools, they are nowhere to be seen, and then you come up with other stories. So I think those are some of the basic principles that guide us, but how country A does it or the other country depends, as I said, on the context and on what works for them. Yeah. But I think there are lessons that we can learn from each other. And I think, especially as Africans, really, when it comes to the international stage, the global politics. And that's where I want to go to. We are all marginalized as Africans. Yeah. We really need to claim our space. And we need to go there. How do we claim that space? We need to go there united as Africans, speaking one voice. And I think the starting point is trying to build consensus around critical issues, even democracy. I'm really looking at a time when Africans, I was happy when in 2003, Africans came up with a mechanism called the African Peer Review Mechanism, whose mission was really to promote governance, to create an enabling environment to accelerate the implementation of the new partnership for Africa and also the continental agenda of African transformation. But governance where we speak to each other as brothers and sisters, the peer review, where I say country A, for us, we are doing things in this way. This is how we do our democracy. Our decentralization works. And you're able to pick. This is how we manage our natural resources. This is how we fight corruption. Yeah. And you also share their best practices learned, their gaps, and we learn from each other through a peer review mechanism where countries have a role to do self-assessment. And I think such mechanisms have to be amplified. But the challenge comes when the narrative again comes to 100%, sometimes on some of the tenets of democracy, 100%, some of them that do not work for Africa. And I think, for me, that issue of peer review mechanism
could be one way.
Could be one way.
Yeah.
It's a homegrown solution.
Yeah.
We need space as Africans to reflect on this issue of democracy and other matters, because there are so many emerging trends. The world is changing, and we need to go together, speaking with one voice as Africa. I think that's when the world will take us serious.
Right. How else can the world take us serious? Or should we do our thing and say, it's up to you, we're not doing this for you, especially when it comes to Africa on the global stage, global politics? Because we've seen a lot of finger pointing from Western nations, even creating a yardstick of deciding which country, which African country is democratic, which one is not. And we've had some African leaders rebuttal that and even say, no, we will continue doing it in our own way. In which other way can Africa stand out in the global stage from a democratic perspective?
There's a word that I hear a lot.
Yeah.
And I hear it as a Rwandan, especially as a Rwandan.
Yeah.
A word that I hear a lot that says, at least we have democracy.
Uh-huh.
At least.
Mm-hmm.
When someone says that, there's an issue. There's a fundamental issue with that statement. It means nothing else works, but at least we have democracy. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Would you say places where people have frequent elections and alternance, would you say the people are better off in those countries than in countries where they don't have frequent elections? So I believe democracy is a value, but it cannot be the least that you have, but it cannot be all that you have.
Yeah.
So if every 5, 6, 7, 4 years, if you change leaders every 4, 5 years, and if the population continue, if life expectancy does not improve, if poverty does not reduce, if unemployment does not reduce, if growth that is not achieved, if security is not secured, if healthcare is not guaranteed, if education is not guaranteed, and you have leaders in, leaders out, then you've got to sit down and say the problem is elsewhere. We've been fixing the wrong problem because it's Romeo Dallaire has in his book, one of the lessons he learned from the failures of the UN in Rwanda. He said, we've got to have processes that work to serve the people, not people working to serve processes. It's important that you adapt the systems for the betterment of the people. In Rwanda, we have one of the fundamental principles, Article 10 of the Constitution, 10.6, which I keep repeating. It says, a constant quest for solutions through dialogue and consensus. Dialogue and consensus is not an end in itself. It is the process to arrive at solutions. So solutions is what we want to arrive at. The process that we use is the process to arrive at the solutions. If we focus on the process, we achieve dialogue, we achieve consensus. But we overlook solutions, we are missing the point. The point is, we have to serve the people. These processes that we have must serve the people. If the process is perfect, but it does not address the questions that the people have, then the process is irrelevant.
So what you're saying is that election in itself should not be a yardstick to determine whether a country is democratic or not.
The reason people established elections, the reason the founders of elections existed, they said so that if people are dissatisfied with the service that the leadership is delivering for them, they can remove them democratically. Or they can speak about what is not going on. That's what those are the tenets of democracy. People from the civil society were telling me, in Rwanda you don't have vibrant civil society. I told them, yes, if you have an outdated definition of civil society. We have vibrant young people on social media. We have vibrant Rwandans on Twitter. We have vibrant YouTubers. We have vibrant artists, DJs, theater players,
and they form
musicians.
The new definition of civil society.
Your definition of civil society are NGOs that go to Western embassies to seek funding. That's the definition of the years of the 90s. In 2023, we have DJs, we have actors, we have young people, Rwandans on Twitter. That's the latest civil society. You're just outdated, but you have to evolve. You cannot have decisions. That's why I said democracy in Rwanda stems from the Rugwiro talks. But over the years, it's been harnessing progress, technology, and other tools to update itself. Rwanda's democratic processes update themselves. I'll give you another example. Today,
just briefly, sorry, I can come back to Ambassador.
Yeah, briefly. Yeah. We have e-government. E-government is using artificial intelligence and technology to deliver democracy. In Rwanda, one of the few countries, by the way, where you can access government services using internet. This is a tool that is new, but we are factoring it in. We have IECMS of the justice sector. Yeah. One of the tenets of democracy is justice delivery. Yeah. In Rwanda, we are using IESMS to deliver justice. So you don't no longer physically go. You apply online. Yeah. So basically, when people talk about democracy and the tenets of democracy, you've got to have democracy of 2024, not democracy of after the Cold War in 1994. Yeah. The democracy evolves, and now if your systems do not update themselves,
then there's a problem.
Then no, you can have the same approach. So we've been electing president, which is why you see many countries, they elect new presidents every time. Why? Because the president does not deliver. They elect a new one. But like they say in France, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose.
You don't.
It changes, but it remains the same. It's like a hamster. A hamster, a rat in a hamster running on the same, like you run on a treadmill or something. You're not going anywhere. And so basically, again, which is why I'm saying I cannot sit here and tell you that I'm an expert on this subject, because democracy, I don't even know what it will bring tomorrow. There's always room for innovation, right, and room for improvement.
Right. Thank you so much, Gatete, for that. Ambassador, I want us to also, he's spoken to those who see democracy in the eye or through the eye of the past and not what it should be today in terms of its dynamic nature. I want us to spend a few minutes, Ambassador, to now speak to those who continue to see it in the conventional way. And I've argued probably that for a country to be democratic, then institutions need to be very loud. And when I talk about institutions, I'm talking about
Because some people feel that to be democratic, you need to have demonstrations every day. But assuming that Rwandans are feeling happy, there is no need to demonstrate, because you demonstrate for a purpose. If, for example, you are expected to have basic services like water, like electricity, and even when you don't get your expected utility, but there is someone who explains and says we are solving this problem, and next time it will be solved. In the imihigo of the local leaders, they plan for it, and after 1 year you can see really the targets have been achieved. So why should you demonstrate, for example? But demonstration for some is the last option because the leaders cannot listen to them. Or maybe they elected them, there were so many promises, but when you match the talk and reality is quite different. So for me, I think it's so different again to look, to try and compare the way this works and that works. At the end of the day, it is the context, but of course we evolve. We evolve from time to time. I remember when this Rwandan parliament, immediately after the constitution in 2003, when it was enacted, the previous parliament, the transitional parliament, and the parliament that we had, Rwandans were complaining that the parliament was seated in Kigali and not going to them.
To them on this, yes.
But today, I think they are complaining that parliamentarians are always there at the grassroots. So I think it's a question of addressing the needs of the people. And whether vibrant or not, I think it depends on the context, in my view. Depends on the context.
Gatete, I mean, those some have argued Rwandans don't even know how tear gas smells. And the argument there is these guys can't even go and complain about anything.
I've been to a demonstration. It's actually exciting. Myself, I've been in Paris. There's less tear gas. There is tear gas, but it's people also chant and play. It's exciting. But so, Anangwe, so demonstration, the issue of demonstrations. So in Rwanda, there's no opposition that does not participate in the governance of the country. In Rwanda, we have, again, constant quest for solutions through dialogue and consensus. And then the Constitution also provides for a forum of political organizations. In Rwanda, no one is left behind. Planning, national planning, starts at household level. Household. Every household in Rwanda, in rural area, has an imihigo, performance objectives of the household, especially if the three categories of poverty. People sign, this year I will buy a television for my household. This year, me and my wife will try to practice family planning. You know? But me and my wife, we're going to stop to fight because domestic violence is a factor of poverty relapse in households. I say this because when we were evaluating Imihigo, we were shocked by cases of people who are having poverty relapse. So you come from category 2 of poverty, you go to category 1. We went to find out one of the reasons is domestic violence. When couples are not, this is one of the performance objectives. This year we're going to achieve peace in the household. And then after this, I'm talking, they have small notebooks where they say what they will achieve for themselves. We'll have a garden, vegetable garden in
and that has contributed heavily to actually solving the problem.
No, they solve household problems because the country starts at the household level. We're going to have a kitchen garden where we will grow vegetables so that our children can eat vegetables and combat stunting. We commit not to have stunted children. We're going to have a cow so that our children can drink milk. We commit this year to have mutuelle de santé so that we can have children. I want to start this at the household level so that all our children can have health insurance. We commit to have all our children going to school. These are some of the things that the husband, wife, and adult kids who are about 16, 15, sit down together and say, what should we achieve this year in our house? And then next year, and then at the end of the year, they sit down again and say, every month they say, are we achieving what we said we're going to achieve? And then all these aspirations of the household, then you have community that sit together and plan. And then you have districts, then you have sectors, and then, so it's a participatory government. It is true democracy. Like Ambassador defined democracy earlier, it's we are going to. So I went to, every time I travel in other countries in Africa, they tell me, your city is so clean, your government is working hard. I tell them, you are mistaken. We clean. No government is coming to clean in front of my house. I clean my street. Which is the reason in those countries they have city council. That brings these trucks to garbage collection trucks of the city. I pay for the garbage collector at my house. I pay. So I gather all my rubbish, my bin clean. I keep it somewhere, and then someone comes at my house. I give it to them, and I pay them. So I don't litter because I pay for the cleaning. And once a month, I go out to clean. So after I've cleaned, imagine the last Saturday of the month, I've gone outside and cleaned my house. If I see someone litter, how do you think it will make me feel? Me, the cleaner of my street. So, for example, I cannot demonstrate against cleanliness because it is my responsibility to clean. Now, I cannot demonstrate against something that is my responsibility. It's participatory governance. So it's participatory governance equals democracy. Now, there are things that I'm not responsible for. I'm not responsible for supplying power and water and building roads. We complain. We don't demonstrate, we complain. And I'll give you one anecdote, and it happened publicly. I'm sure you followed. Last 2 weeks ago, I reached my house, and we had a power cut. 30 minutes later, I wrote to Reg. I said, Reg, this part of Rebero has no power. It's been 30 minutes. Reg did two things. One, Reg referred me to a tweet posted earlier saying people of this area, between this time and this time, there will be a power shortage because we have a technical issue that we are fixing. And then after Reg, that was accountability. After that tweet, Reg tweeted again and said, Sir, Gatete views, I suppose, we're fixing this and it will be reinstated momentarily. 15 minutes later, power was back. And then Reg tweeted to me, power is back. I said, indeed, power is back, and thank you very much. This was a democratic process. Let me tell you, because you can say that democracy is to demonstrate. This was a democratic process. And this is not me, because I'm sure people will hear this and say, it's because you're always on Twitter. No. Everyone, you have experienced this. Everyone who tweets, people say, hello, National Police. Someone did tweet, hello, National Police. I was driving in Rwanda. I was driving, and this car came too close to me, and then every time I went on the side, the car kept coming until I ran away, and I took a picture of this car. Here it is. Random person that I didn't know. Police said, oh, hang on, we are following this up. A few minutes later, the person was told, by the way, your picture is on Twitter. The person looked for the Twitter, the person who tweeted, and said, I apologize. I was absent-minded, I was tired coming from work and so on. And so the person said, hello, police, stop searching for this person. We have met, we have reconciled. He explained to me what was going on, and so on and so forth. This is democracy.
Thank you.
So now, if democracy, this is Rwanda's approach to democracy. Now, sometimes we were during COVID.
Right.
Just one last thing.
I want to go to Senator Cherargei because we've got him, and I just wanted him to come in. We have less than 10 minutes to end the show. Yes.
We were under COVID. And we had restrictions to stay in the house. Our football team went and played somewhere. And they scored a goal. We broke the COVID rules and we went demonstrating. Outside, for that circumstances, no one was arrested for it. But you see, so every aspect of democracy is practiced. But it's practiced based on our needs, responding to our needs.
Perfect.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Point taken. Thank you so much, Gatete, for bringing that up. And of course, anytime from now, I'll be reading your thoughts on our X platform. I see so much is coming in through the hashtag #TheSummitRW. Please send them in, because any moment from now, I'll be reading all of them. But I want to bring in Senator Cherengei. I'm told he's joining us live from Nairobi via way of phone. Senator, if you can hear me, I want just to pick your thoughts. First of all, just real quick, especially on the aspect of this conversation we're having of democracy our way. And every country has its own ways of defining what works for them in that particular case. And we want to try and understand if the continent understands this, if the region understands this, or we are in a competition mode of we are better than you and you are not better. I want just to read your thoughts, first of all, from a citizen of the region, first of all.
Thank you, Nangwe, for having me. It's always a pleasure to join you on this very incisive program. That it's an honor. Let me greet the people of Rwanda. Number one is I want to thank you. I think this is a conversation that we need to have most of the time. I think in the spirit of Pan-Africanism, there is no country that is better than the other. Because in terms of sovereignty of each country, they must use democracy that works with them.
Yes.
And I said in your last program that the unique nature of each and every country is different. Because in Africa, what thrives in terms of democracy depends on clanism, tribes, the history of the country, the nature of the neo-colonialism and post and pre-colonial aspects. So at the end of the day, democracy, we cannot say Kenya is better than Rwanda or Rwanda is better than Kenya. It is about what works for Rwanda, what works for Kenya. They say if the shoe fits, so wear it. So I think what Ambassador Fatuma Mheshimiwa and also Attorney, my colleague learned in the profession, Gatete, are putting that democracy should be seen as complementary, not competitiveness. And therefore, I think in the Pan-African spirit, we must respect the uniqueness of each and every country. The way Rwanda democracy operates and Kenya might look different, but we are pulling in one direction of Pan-African spirit.
Right. But Senator, why has it been difficult then for people of the world to understand this, including your brothers in Kenya? I mean, we know what was said about Rwanda in comparison in terms of the democracy there and Kenya.
In fact, the PS in charge of foreign affairs has clarified and has stated that Rwanda is a brother nation and should be respected as so. I think the minister who made that statement made it in bad faith, and I think that is why some of us have even insisted that some of the senior government officials must be taken through a crash program on the aspect of diplomacy. So I think what the minister said, he said out of ignorance or not having knowledge about diplomatic relationship across Africa. But I think the PS of Foreign Affairs did clarify. I think as a country, and Rwanda being a member of East Africa community, we must respect each other through mutual respect. And I think it is a high time that, and I think the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Kenya has a lot of obligation to ensure that senior government officials or even members of parliament do not make comments that might look like either demeaning or being disrespectful against the other country. But I think Rwanda as a country is a great ally of this Republic of Kenya. And we have seen in many occasions Rwanda and Kenya have mutual respect and symbiotic relationship in terms of many aspects historically. So I think that the view of Kenyans and members of parliament towards Rwanda is a brother nation. Like you, we just left Rwanda after the parliamentary games of East Africa community, although myself I didn't attend, but they have good stories about Rwanda. We have a lot to learn from Rwanda. They also have a lot to learn from Kenya. And I think that is what we call Pan-African spirit. Right.
Senator, in under a minute, I want just to read your thoughts because, you know, we've seen a lot in terms of the way, you know, Kenya's democratic processes have been, especially talking about the you know, the journey towards multi-party democracy, but then we got into the new way of democracy in terms of the coalition governments, government of national unity. Then now the current regime, which is actually, you know, saying we do not want opposition anywhere close to us because we want them to do their job in terms of keeping the government in check. And that, you know, has worked or has not worked or has had its own challenges in one way or another. Talk to us a bit about that experience. For those who might not understand how that works for Kenya, maybe just share with us in under a minute.
No, I think the argument that is why we say democracy is unique in every country. I think my own opinion is democracy is we must have a government and we must have opposition.
Yeah.
Because in the principle of separation of powers, we must have what we call checks and balances, and that is the opposition. I think where we are headed as a continent and more so in Africa, we'll see more coalition way of government because of competitiveness of elections, the nature of our elections, how our elections operate in Africa. But I think going into the future, we must have a clean where we have post and pre-coalition agreements, especially during electioneering period. But I want to insist that for a functional democracy, we must have opposition and we must have government so that there is checks of excesses in terms of execution. But going into the future, I think across the world, you know, even US the other day, you saw what happened during the Donald Trump era. You have seen democracies which is supposed to be emulating, even France. I saw my brother mentioning something about France.
Yeah. So
going into the future, as Africa, we must have a unique way where we don't defeat the intent and tenets of democracy.
Yeah.
But we must inculcate and customize democracy in a way that it does not endanger the ideas of democracy. Yeah. But we continue to flourish in terms of democracy where we have, and I agree with Ambassador, she has said very well, that universal suffrage where people are given chance to go to an election, elect the leaders of their choice, put a government in their choice, so that you have what we call legitimacy, and I think legitimacy is important and can only be acquired through the electioneering process.
Right. Thank you so much, Senator. Thank you very much for having us. I think we should have done this earlier. We should have just gone phone direction instead of waiting for Skype, which has actually failed us in this particular sense. But thank you for making time. Gatete, Ambassador, I want us to take our quick thoughts as we wrap up. I always say this is usually the shortest 1 hour ever. And Gatete, just as you said, maybe democracy is something dynamic. We might not know where it will take us tomorrow. It's evolving. I want to read your thoughts in the way forward. I mean, what do we do if the people have to remember anything from this conversation tonight? What are those things that they should remember?
That democracy should not be a box in which we must think. Democracy is not, there's no template. Let me give you numbers because we are wrapping up.
Yeah, under a minute, just very quick.
So there are 400 million Chinese who live better than Americans. 400 million already. When someone said that Rwanda doesn't have democracy, I told them, well, that is that's your opinion.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that Rwanda leads the continent and is the 20th in the world to attract the best and brightest brains of Rwandans and foreigners.
Yeah.
The best and brightest brains in Africa come to this dictatorship here. Yeah. So I don't know if it's a dictatorship, if it's a democracy, it's his opinion, which is entitled to. I note that the best and brightest come here.
Yeah.
I note that it's the fastest growing economy. I note in Africa, I note that healthcare and education are universal and free. I note that security is the best on the continent. I note these factors.
Yes, and the point.
So now the point I'm making is that democracy is in the eyes of the beholder from outside. From inside, it's about do we have. I note that we have 70 years of life expectancy, as Ambassador said. Those are the figures you can measure. Now, I encourage people to continue saying that we are a dictatorship. It is there. If there is some substance in what they say, we will listen. But what I want to measure is the livelihood of people. So that's what matters for me.
That's what matters for you. Ambassador, what's your thought? I mean, if there's anything we need to remember tonight as far as this conversation on democracy is concerned, because I want to go up there and just also read real quick some of the feedback or the comments. Just talk to us, tell us about that.
Yeah, the democracy to me is not an end in itself.
Yes.
It is for a purpose.
Yes.
It is to have inclusive leadership and leadership that works for the people.
Yeah.
Leadership that delivers to the aspirations of the people.
Yeah.
That empowers the people economically, socially. Leadership that puts the people first. And for me, I think Africa is trying its best, but there are areas for improvement.
Yeah.
And inclusive governance, as the lessons learned in Rwanda, and power sharing is something that I think is something worth exploring, especially in countries emerging from conflicts or legacies of colonialism, in countries where we still have ethnic politics, because at the end of the day, we need to see how, at all costs, peace, stability, and development have to be anchored with our democracy.
Right. Thank you very much. Let me quickly just read what we've been seeing. I have several comments that have been coming through. Abdolapo Aina says, when democracy is mentioned, which type of democracy is being referred to? States ought to practice what works for their countries. In the global north, states don't practice the same type of democracy, not one. So why should the global south? Good governance is what is very important. This is what he says on that particular note. And I think I want to appreciate all those comments that have been coming through from that particular sense. I also have so much on the YouTube live stream. I have Delphine Vakuto says, traditional democracy is heavily anchored on literacy of the majority population. Does democracy in this sense work, or do we need to think about contextuality and in terms of relevant options? I think she comes back and says, citizen participation is a vital ingredient for a strong democracy. What does meaningfully including citizens in government look like in practice? Thank you for that. I have Jean Paul who says, yes, Rwanda is a democratic country. Every people choose the right person with right ideas. Very significant. And of course, there's been so much coming in. I have Chris Renzo who says, some countries should not even have elections. It's a nonsense when you have no roads, no health care facilities, no security, no running water. And this is what he says. Richard is saying he's watching the summit for the very first time, and the topic could not be that timely. There's a lot of your comments out there, and I want to appreciate you for actually keeping them coming. We always say the conversation ends in these four walls, and I want to say thank you so much, my panelists right here, and of course to Senator. Thank you very much, Senator, for making time, of course, even in your tight schedule, and of course everyone else who's been watching us. We will continue this conversation on our social media platforms. Always add the hashtag #TheSummitRW, and of course go there and check out what other people are saying about this, and also add your voice to it. We'll see you again next time, same place, probably next year, 2024. As always, my name is Eugene, and good night and good luck.